We live lives of complete social conditioning, ideas that aren't true that get drilled into our heads. We accept these ideas into our minds and we just let them flourish. All of this happens without us even knowing it. A few years ago, the school I was in, they hired a maths teacher. Now we had different levels of maths. You had the basic level, then you had a level that was higher than that, then you had a third level where there were only 3 or 4 students. That was a very high level of mathematics. If you've been in IGCSE, you might be aware of additional mathematics. 9th and 10th grade. So in the 9th grade, they hired a teacher. Right, I'm not gonna say his name in case I don't think it's a good idea to say his name, but we'll just call him Mr. D. Call him Mr. D. And so Mr. D, very smart guy. He's very good at maths. He's very good at maths and physics. You'd give him a question that was nobody else in the school could answer it. No other teacher, no other professor would be able to answer it. And he'd sit down, he'd just look at it, and then he'd pump out an answer. He was very good at that. He was very good at the ability to sit and just give the answer to a question. But the problem was that this man did not know how to teach. He was a horrible, horrible, horrible teacher. He was incredibly smart, but he was at the same time, he was really bad at conveying thoughts and ideas to a student. In order to be an effective and efficient teacher, you have to be able to get into the minds of children and understand where they're coming from. So basically, the way a child's mind works, the way anyone who's trying to learn something works, it's kind of like you're in the middle of a cornfield, right? You've found a path to get to the center of it, but you don't know where to go. You have to get to the other side of the cornfield, and you don't know which direction to go to. What a teacher does is that because the teacher has already, through either trial and error or through another teacher, they've already found a path that works from that point. So their job is to kind of walk all the way back to the point where the student is in the center of the cornfield and pave a path that they know exists. And this is done by truly empathizing with the student and trying to understand how their psyche works. And by doing that, you need to have an understanding of how the human brain works and how you were at one point also in the center of the field and you didn't know what to do, and your thought process and you have to understand your own thought process on how you understood certain topics. So with me, I was stuck in this cornfield with the idea that I had no clue where to go in terms of understanding calculus. Right, I had no clue what it was. I just knew what integration was. I knew what derivation was. I didn't know what it did. Right. The reason for that was because this man, a bad teacher, Mr. D, what he did was he just simply told me, this is how you integrate a formula, whatever, however you say it. I haven't done maths in like 4 or 5 years. And he just told me, this is how you do integration, this is how you do derivation. But I had no clue what that meant, what it was used for. I had no deep understanding of it. I just simply knew that this is the formula, this is what you have to do to certain integers, this is what you have to do to variables to derive another formula from them. Right? And that is an example of a bad teacher. Now, I wasn't the only one who had this problem. There were a total of 5 or 6 kids, and out of those 5 or 6 kids, 3 of them had a good understanding of it. The other 2 or 3, me and a friend of mine, we were kind of clueless. We joined the highest level of maths because we had confidence in ourselves that we do well, but because of a lack of a good teacher in this case, we just simply lost the motivation to actually be able to understand what was going on. So the other kids who already understood what this was, for them it was easy because this guy, he's just giving them a formula. They already have the understanding, they already have a good idea of the path to take to exit the cornfield. But they just needed a little more guidance, in the sense that they just needed to make the pathway a bit wider, and they did that by learning the different formulas and whatnot. For me, there was no path that was made for me. I was just told to pave my way through it, right? But I didn't know which way to pave it through, right? Because everyone was told that you have to pave your way through it, but I didn't know which direction to go to. The others did, right? So that's the difference, because I had no deep understanding of what calculus was. And I want to apply this idea. But wait, sorry, before I do that, I want to talk about what exactly happened. So we go up to our teacher, the manager of the department of maths, and we told her, it's like, we don't understand what's going on in class. Like, we really don't. It's we're getting all the formulas, we can answer the questions, but we don't know what the fuck calculus is, right? And her response to that was, oh no, but Mr. D, he's actually a very smart person. He studied from IIT, he's done this, that, he's very, very smart. He excels in his field. And this is a simple form of conditioning that we've all been told, that if someone is good in a particular field, we just simply assume that they're good at it, right? So we'll go up to them for advice, we'll go up to them and ask for what they did, and they might tell us what worked for them, but not necessarily what will work for us, because for them, in their minds, what they might think is that, you know what, this formula works, this formula works, this formula works, but what you need is a deep understanding of what that concept is. And just learning the formulas won't help, right? So we tried really hard to get someone else to teach us maths, but the head of department simply refused. What she said was just, oh, you know, he's a very smart person, this, that, whatever. Until the point where we started to fail, and we had no other option but to get another teacher who would try and help us understand. So the head of department had to step in the next year and try and teach us properly, and she did a much better job. But even with her, there was that same issue that she wasn't able to get the one or two kids who didn't have a good understanding to actually have a good understanding. She wasn't able to accomplish that. This is something that I see in my dad specifically, because he has so much good knowledge. He is such an intelligent man in terms of what he's accomplished, but he is not good at effectively communicating that to his kids, right? And this is why the art of communication is so fucking important, and nobody pays attention to it. Communication is literally everything. If you learn something, if you are unable to communicate it to someone else, then it is practically worthless. If today I learn how to code, right, I get a really deep understanding of how Python or JavaScript works. Tomorrow, if I want to communicate that in the form of, now there's obviously different forms of communication. One of them might be through your work, through doing projects. Another form of communication is teaching other people. Until you can't teach other people, you don't really know how it works. You think you do, but you haven't really thought about how your mind perceived that whole process from start to finish. And I apologize if everything I've said here sounds very vague to you, but I assure you that if you spend a decent amount of time thinking about how we actually learn things, about how we were taught how to multiply shit. This is why the most smart and empathetic people, the most smart people are often kindergarten and primary school teachers, because these people have a deep understanding on how a child's mind works, and they have the ability to learn things themselves and teach it to other people. That's why they're very effective communicators. One of the best teachers I ever had, Mr. Smith, in 5th grade. This guy was so good. This guy could teach you any concept. He'd use these crazy techniques. He'd use humor. He'd use like a bunch of different things. But whatever he'd do it really well. And you could tell that this motherfucker was smart. I knew that this motherfucker was different. He was half British, half Irish. He was a pretty cool guy. I tried contacting him a couple times, but the school kind of rejected that, and they put my email in spam. But yeah. So what I want to tie this into is basically the idea that a lot of us think that we know a lot of things. My teacher, Mr. D, he thought he'd be a really good teacher because he knew how maths worked. Just because you understand something, just because you understand a concept, doesn't mean that you're going to be able to convey that concept to a bunch of other people. Same thing in business. Because you've watched a few YouTube videos and you've learned the theory, this is why people say it's so important to get the practicals in. It's so important to go and try and teach people to actually understand how teaching works. You could sit and do 15 hours of a course on how to run a business, right? You could learn all the fundamentals, the different types of businesses, how different types of leadership work, your autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire, all these different types of things, the hierarchy of needs, all of these things. You could sit and learn these things and you'd think you have a good understanding of them. Would you be effectively able to communicate that in a corporate environment without any experience? I don't think so. You really wouldn't. There's so many kids out there, which I think the guys who have this arrogant mentality that they can actually go and do something and do it well, I think these guys are so much better than the other people who are just simply scared to do these things. But that's a completely different topic. There's so many guys out there who think that because they have an understanding of fitness, of how they built muscle, that they can go and become a personal trainer. I'm sorry, but 15% of being a personal trainer is actually building the muscle and going through the experience of building muscle. The rest of the experience comes from being a fucking personal trainer, right? There's guys out there who've said, I could probably do a better job than the personal trainers in my gym. Bro, trust me, you wouldn't be able to do that. There's people out there who complain about why football coaches are obese and aren't actually able to, actually play a full 90 minutes, and why coaches are fat and stuff. The reason why they're coaches is not because they're good players, it's because they're a good fucking coach. Because they understand how the players' minds work and they know how to get the best out of their minds. You need to understand that when you make fun of someone, that when you assume this place of arrogance, that you know something better than someone else who's been doing their shit for a while, right? There's people out there who say, oh, this CEO ain't shit, I could go and do a better job than him. He makes horrible mistakes. You see this so much with spurgs online, with idiots online who are sitting on their chairs all day and saying, oh, this player should have done that. This player, he's not focused on his game properly. This guy, he doesn't know his shit. I could do a better job than that. I could make better decisions than that. Trust me, you fucking wouldn't, because there's so much shit that you don't know about. There's just shit that you see on a screen. You do not have an understanding of how shit works. I do not have an understanding of how shit works. What I'm doing right now, and I will elaborate on this later on, this is so much better than sitting and watching YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos. The process of making YouTube videos is 80% of what you will learn about making YouTube videos, not watching a fucking course, not learning how to edit fucking videos. You always lead with action. This is how you actually learn shit. This is how you get good at something. You always lead with action. You don't sit back and think about How am I supposed to do this? I don't know how to do this, so I need to probably do some research. Research is fucking useless if you're not doing the action, if you're not doing the fundamentals, if you're not taking action. And this is why I actually have a lot of respect for people who think they can do shit. People who think that if I say today that I can be a personal trainer and that I can just go and I'll train a bunch of people and I'll do a better job than the people that actually exist. That is good. That is so important. It is so important to have that arrogance. It is so important to have the arrogance to think that, oh man, I don't think this guy knows how to run a business. I could do a better job than him. It's so important to have that arrogance, because what that does, it motivates you to go and get that shit done. When you go and do shit and you make those mistakes and you realize, oh my god, this is way more nuanced than I thought it would ever be. This is way more difficult than I ever actually imagined it would be. You realize that, holy shit, I was so illusioned and now I'm disillusioned, and now I know that I have so much shit to learn. Because just spending a couple of hours doing actual work, then spending 2 or 3 weeks doing research, will disillusion you. It will completely change the way you perceive a certain topic. It will completely change the way you practice a certain topic. This is why I always say lead with action, and then you use feedback theory and you use different ideas from different people to elaborate on that, because you have an experience to relate it to, and that is how true learning occurs. You won't learn shit about business if you go and do a business degree. You will learn from working and then doing an MBA and then learning from that MBA. Now this is just one way of learning, right? But this is probably a very effective way of learning. This is one of the things that my dad talks to me a lot about. Because I want to do business, I need to do a regular degree, then go and work. I'm not gonna go and do an MBA immediately. You have to go and work so that you have experiences that you can relate to, right? I'm gonna go back to the point about people having arrogance. People who have arrogance, as long as you maintain that arrogance and willingness to succeed, when you do realize that you don't know jack shit, that you've actually been illusioned this whole time and that you've been incredibly arrogant, do not lose that willpower. Because now that you've understood that you don't know shit, you have to force yourself into actually trying and understanding the field that you're trying to get into, that you're trying to get good at. You have to go and cultivate this habit of realizing that you're completely wrong and that you're completely stupid, so that you can be humble yet motivated. You can be humble that you don't understand anything, but you still must have that willpower to go and get that shit done, to go and learn these things through trial and error and learning through theory. There's another video I want to make about binary thinking and why you might feel like your ideology seem to oscillate between two different ends. Like for me, for example, from 2020, 2019 or 2020, when I started listening to real world shit like, Red Pill stuff and just like political stuff, people like Jordan Peterson, a lot of commentary channels who speak on just general social political issues, I started leaning extremely towards the left, and I started have a completely liberal mindset. And then I started seeing a lot of people disprove a lot of theories, and then I started to lean completely in that direction. And then in around halfway through last year, I started to go back towards that left-leaning mindset, but obviously not as extreme. So it was like somewhere. So if this is a scale, I started off not knowing anything, then I went here towards the left. I'm not sure if the image is mirrored for you when you watch this video, but for me, this is my left. Started over here, then it went all the way over here, then it went closer to here, and then it went here, and now I feel like I have true humility in the fact that I will never be able to have binary thinking, that I will be able to identify with one political group and one political ideology, because everything is so fucking nuanced. And once you have this humility through trial and error, through experience, that is only when you actually start to learn. Not when you sit and watch YouTube videos on your ass about how to start an online business. That is not when you actually learn. Relating to this to the initial example I gave about my teacher. Where's my water bottle? Relating this to the original example I gave, this is why a lot of employers will demand experience, because experience is so important. This is why that teacher who got fired from his last job, he got into his next job because of his credentials, that he'd studied from a prestigious university, he'd done a lot of projects. He didn't have any good experience. It was either nature or nurture that didn't allow him to be a good teacher. Most of the time it's nurture, and even through your nature you can still work past you can still hit your ceiling, your genetic ceiling, and that ceiling is pretty high regardless of how stupid you think you are. So a lot of it is about going and getting experience. This is what my core point of this whole video is. You might think you have a profound understanding of how the world works, of how certain fields work, of what you have interest in works, but trust me, you don't. And I know that because I don't have an understanding on how shit works at all, right? I'm saying this with so much confidence because I have the humility to know that I will be disproved. I will probably be disproved about this in the future, but it is still more true than the existing beliefs that you have, the viewer. Man, I just love bottles that are insulated, because like I filled this with cold water at like 9 in the morning. It is 12 hours later. It is exactly 9:01 right now. I'm not sure you can see, and it's still cold. Like obviously it's not as cold, but it's still pretty like cool. It's pretty refreshing. Shout out to thermos water bottles, pretty cool. But yeah, so my core takeaway from this video is that have an open mind and be completely humble to the idea that you don't know shit. Always be willing to learn from people, but at the same time, do not let go of your willpower to go and do things, because that is how you will learn. Or did I have anything else? You know what? When I make these videos, I get so nervous that about conveying the right messages and like saying it right in the first 10 minutes, because I know that most people, like, once they sense that I'm not confident or I'm nervous or whatever, they'll start to click off. But like once I've gotten like 20 minutes into it, I know that the people who are watching are like kind of hooked onto it and they believe in what I'm saying, so I can like start drinking water and doing normal shit. And I think this is probably the biggest lesson that I've learned about humility. That just knowing that you don't know shit about the world, and when someone tries to give an idea to you, you try to not take that at face value. If you've been told your whole life that, for this is an example, if you've been told your whole life that going to the gym is bad for you, that going to the gym is bad for you when you're younger, because it reduces growth hormones and it reduces your height, it stops you from growing in height. That is you and I probably know that that's not true, but a lot of people who've grown up knowing that, who've heard that throughout their lives, they'll just assume that it's true without actually questioning it. And this is a completely separate topic that I want to talk about questioning things, about questioning your social programming, right? Because this is why the left has always succeeded up until very recently through the internet. The left has always succeeded because the left has always questioned social norms, and it has always questioned why we have certain things in place. Now that we've come to a place in society where we're very comfortable, where we've kind of stagnated in our drive to create equality, especially in the West. We've started to concern ourselves with matters that don't actually have much benefit to actually to being concerned with them. You're much better off trying to just work on yourself than find um than finding a place for trans athletes in sports, right? Because there's literally people out there who spend several hours a day discussing and debating these super trivial topics. People like fucking Destiny, you know. I admire that guy's ability to debate, but that guy, that he is nothing like what I want to be in life. I guarantee you, if I have a debate with him, I will lose. But I do not want to be like him, because that man, he is so good at debating. There's so many people who've thought that they can go up to him. This kind of relates to the idea I had at the start of this video. There's so many people out there who have thought that they can get on a debate with him and actually beat him, because they've done this thing. They've probably seen him and they've done like their theory research about debating. But when they get onto the field, they can't fucking beat a guy with years of experience. With years of experience dealing with people like them. So even if he uses fallacies or whatnot, he can convince his Twitch chat, he can convince the other person that they're wrong, and he can make them look stupid. But at the same time, that guy is not someone who I want to be like. I have a lot of respect for him, but that guy, he like this low body fat dude, blue hair. He looks miserable. He does drugs. He's in a polyamorous relationship. That shit is sad, man. I do not want to be like that. I still admire him though. I have a lot of respect for him. And this comes from a rejection of binary thinking. I haven't put this guy into a I haven't put this guy into a either that he is smart or he is stupid. A lot of people do this, and a lot of people, this is one of the reasons why people stay in bubbles, because people aren't able to reject binary thinking. And this is what I wanted to relate to the topic of the left. Nowadays, people who get into leftist ideologies, people think that these leftist ideologies are actually questioning societal norms, but now it's gotten to the point where through social media, the left is the norm. And now the real left is actually conservatism, because conservatism is questioning the left, and it is actually having the more pragmatic approach to society. It's very interesting to think. So I think we need to stop putting the label that of the left and the right, and rather use conservatism and progressivism, because nowadays the real conservatives are the left, and the right-leaning ideologies are the actual progressives, because the progressives are questioning the things that we've already established, the laws about trans athletes or whatever it is, about gender, about what it is. Because I feel like a lot of people on the right, not all people, I feel like this is only a minority of people on the right and centrists, have an understanding that we don't understand gender. And people who are smart enough to realize this will actually be able to, people who are smart enough to realize that we don't have an understanding about gender, you will see them have probably the approaches that will be validated in the future, right? So the people who right now who are saying, and this happened several years ago, this has happened throughout time, people have the arrogance to think that that they're actually right, just because they're at the point of the highest information. They're in the information age, so they think that they're the smartest that they've ever been. Trust me, you're not as smart as you think you are. You're probably stupid. You're probably just as illusioned as people were 500, 600 years ago when they thought the earth was flat. And I give this example to everyone. Everyone thought Galileo Galilei was insane for thinking that the earth was round. He was imprisoned and he was exiled. I'm not sure if he was exiled actually. I know he was imprisoned. But this man was proved to be right 100 years later. The same thing. But you are going to see a change in the rhetoric of gender. You are going to see in 10 years from now, in 10, 15, 20 years from now, you will see the people who have the most pragmatic approaches, the most neutral approaches towards complex, nuanced topics like gender, they will be proved right in 15 or 20 years. Right now, either the rhetoric is amongst people is either that trans people don't exist or that gender is completely a social construct. And the issue with this is that this increases polarization within society, and this also creates conflict, and it also creates a disconnect between people, and it makes people just have hate for each other because they're like, how stupid are you to actually think that this is possible? Whereas I think the most pragmatic approaches, which do believe that there is some element of truth in both sides, but neither side is fully true. People who have those type of approaches, they will be proved right in 15 or 20 years. People who have nuanced takes, people who are willing to accept their own ignorance, people who are willing to accept that they don't know shit about society, people with pragmatic approaches are the people who will be proved right in 15 or 20 years in topics like gender. Right now it's gender. In 15 or 20 years it could be something like transracialism. There's people who have completely accepted these things and people who have completely rejected these things. The most important thing you can do, especially if you're a young person, someone who has the next 50 or 60 years left to live on this planet, the best thing you can do is to understand that you don't know shit. And this is kind of my motto right now. It's just knowing that I don't know shit about things and just not rejecting new ideas. And new ideas don't mean that the leftist ideologies are versus my own conservative ideologies. I'm talking about ideas as a whole. Ideas that do not agree with the agenda that my social bubble has. This is why I don't have a consistent friend group. It's because I do not want to become the average of the 5 people I spend the most time with. I do not want to become someone who is only good at one thing. I want to be a generalist. I want to be good at everything. And the way to do that is to understand that I don't know shit about anything. You know, it's kind of it's almost like a paradox. It's not quite a paradox, but it's almost like a paradox. The only way to understand everything is to understand that you don't understand everything, and you never will be able to understand everything. And the people right now with these mindsets, who have adopted these mindsets and these ideas, people who will surround themselves with like-minded people like this, will be the leaders of the next generation. And these people are you and me. I sound fucking arrogant as hell, but I don't give a shit. Because I have real, true belief in this arrogance. And you know what? Even if I do get proved wrong, this ties back into what I said halfway through this video, that I have a lot of respect for people who are arrogant, because people who are arrogant will go and figure out that they were wrong, and then they will right themselves. And this is what's going to happen with me. I'm probably going to be proved wrong, but I'm willing to accept that fact, and in the future I will realize where I went wrong and how I can and what I can do to correct myself. We live in a constant state of feeling like we are disillusioned. We feel like we always feel like we understand everything. The moment you feel that you understand everything, you're probably on the wrong path. You know, the way to understand that you are actually on the right path, if you think about it, is knowing that you aren't on the right path, that you actually don't know anything. That is how you know that you're doing the right things. If you're in a constant state of bewilderment and accepting of the fact that you don't know anything. Of course, you don't have to go completely into it and devote your entire life to understanding rocket science, if that's what you want to specialize in. But if you're like me and you want to specialize in everything, if you want to specialize in not specializing in everything and being a generalist, if you want to be a generalist, then you need to understand that you don't know shit about anything. And that is how you will learn about everything. There's a lot of fucking value in this video, and if you've understood to the level that I understand it, I know for a fact that I have to communicate my ideas better, and eventually I will. But one thing you can do if you want to understand what I've said better is watch this video till the end, save it to make a new playlist called stuff I want to rewatch, add this to that playlist, come back in 2 or 3 weeks and rewatch it. I guarantee you will have completely different perspective on everything that I said today. This is simply how the human brain works. This also ties back into what I said at the start about the process of gaining experience, because in those 2 weeks that you've spent outside of this thing, you will have gained more experiences. You will have walked through life with a different lens, with a different perspective on things. You will learn new things and you will be like, holy shit. And then when you come back to re-listen to the theory that I gave, to the ideas that I presented, you will have more experiences to relate them to, and hopefully you will be able to expand on that. Hopefully you will have something else to talk about. Hopefully you will disagree with me, which I look forward to. I really hope someone comments underneath this video or replies to me in my DMs. In case you don't know, you can DM me at abhikftw on Instagram. I don't check my Instagram messages that often, but when I do, like, I fucking love getting into debates with people. Positive discussions and discourse, not arguments. I'm not talking about arguments, I'm talking about like true discourse. I would love for you to disagree with me and tell me that, because that is how I know that I will learn. Having that debate will help me gain a more nuanced approach on life and what it means to learn things on what these different ideas and concepts mean. I know there's a couple of you who watch my videos to the end. I'm so fucking grateful for you guys. I really need you to give me your take on this, and then not think directly about this, don't talk about this for a couple of weeks, then you come back to this, you rewatch this, and then you have a different conversation with me. I've had this happen to me multiple times, and every single time my friends have been like, holy shit dude, I didn't know that this thing could work this way. And this is why people say, so you will see a lot of older people, a lot of wise people say that they're constantly in a state of learning. Give me 5 minutes, no? Sorry, that was my sister. This is why the most wise people know that they don't know everything, and that is how they continue to learn, and that is why they have such a deep, vast knowledge, because they aren't tied to their arrogance, they're not tied to their ego of this thinking that they know everything. Because if you think that you know everything, it will eventually come crashing down. Whether that's on a large scale, whether that's on a small scale, whether that's through taking small L's here and there in the workplace, or whether that's through losing all your money in a business you were 100% confident on. You will learn. If you want me to expand on any idea that I've mentioned today, if you want me to discuss any idea that I've talked about today, I really want you to message me or call me or just send or just comment or whatever, so that I can make another video and expand on these ideas that I have. I've really enjoyed making this 40-minute video. I feel like it's really got me into the flow state. I was thinking a lot about this while I was having dinner. I was like, damn. I just really fucking love recording these videos, because this is also, I should probably write this down right now. Articulation and how it helps understand ideas. And this is what it is. This everything that I've said in this video, I have gained a more profound, a deeper understanding of everything I said just by recording this video without a script. Just by articulating my ideas, I have been able to understand my own ideas better, and so that I will be able to further implement these ideas into the future and talk about them more and expand on them. And there's a theory tied to this. It's not really a theory, but it's a technique that if you want to understand anything, a lot of I've seen a lot of productivity YouTubers talk about this. Ali Abdal, for example, I'll write this down as well. I want to give this as the first example. I know I know I'm doing shit that is not necessary for the video, but if you're watching like 40 minutes in, 41 minutes in, doesn't even matter, bro. Just like spend like another 5 minutes, just wait for me to write shit down on my whiteboard. Basically, the idea of this is that if you want to really understand something well, if you really want to understand a concept well, go and try and teach that to someone else. Because what that does in your brain has different ideas in different chunks, and you have to kind of bridge the gap between all of those chunks. The best way to do that is through articulating yourself, because when you articulate yourself, you force yourself into taking idea A and idea C, and you have to make idea B to connect those two ideas together, right? And that helps you reinforce idea B, and it reinforces your psychology in general and makes you very smart. Just trust me on this. Student teacher technique. This is something that I have to talk about. I'll write it down to do tomorrow. I have a bunch of video ideas I need to work on. I had to cross out the ones that I have already made. Stop taking advice from your friends. That one will come out on Wednesday. This one I will schedule this video for Sunday. It's actually Tuesday right now, so if you're watching this, I record this on Tuesday, the 9th of May. There's also a couple other topics that I wanted to talk about. One of them was cold emails and just going up to people and cold approaching people, not even like a pickup game sense, like just people who are out there just learning new things from people. There's different ideas. I should probably write that down as well. Where was it? It was also from an Ali Abdal video where he said that one of the best things to do in college for networking is to go and sit with a new person every single day. Just to go and sit with a new person, talk to them, and see what they're up to, see what their pros, their cons are, what they're good at, what they're bad at, what you can use them for, what value you can get from them, what value you can give to them, what value exchange you can have. That's literally what business is, exchange of value. And the best way to get good at that is to network in college and in school and just talk to new people, meet new people. That is probably one of the most valuable skills you can have. I need to make a separate video on this, valuable skills. I'm just in a real flow state right now. You know what? Valuable skills. And I think I'll make a playlist on this, so I could put this video in the section of open-mindedness, just the humility to accept that you don't know shit. So one of them is articulation, like I mentioned. open-mindedness. And I guarantee you, nobody on YouTube has made a video like this before, or a set of videos about these valuable skills: articulation, open-mindedness. What else was it? Social skills, the ability to just go and talk to someone, connect with someone randomly. I'm good at a lot of these things, you know. I feel like in maybe 20 years I'll look back to these moments in these forms of documentation. Even if my YouTube channel doesn't do well and this doesn't turn out to be a thing, I can look back on this and I'll be like, damn, I was pretty smart back then. So like, think about where I'm at. So I'm thinking right now about where I might be in 20 years. But then again, me assuming that I'm smart imposes sense of arrogance onto myself. It makes me get complacent. It makes me think that I know my shit. So I always have to be willing to learn. I feel like there's so many more things I can add to this list of valuable skills, which it's just going to be something that I keep working on. So yeah, I think I'm going to end this here. I have other work to do. Should brainstorm a little more. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know if you watched till the end. You're actually, if you've stuck around till the end, massive respect to you. Let me know if you have, and have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.